Matt, welcome to BetMGM tonight. I'm sure it's been a heck of a day, last 24 hours really for you. Straight away from me, from what you gathered, how did the Lane Kiffin deal exactly go down? What were you thinking were the biggest selling points to lure him from Oxford to LSU? Is it just money or something else?
Lane said multiple times throughout the process that it wasn't going to be money. Actually, at his introductory press conference today, he said multiple times that he told his agent, Jimmy Sexton, he didn't even want to know the deals. He didn't want to know the number and amounts, and they were all comparable. Whether it was LSU, Ole Miss, Florida, he actually said there was a fourth school. He wouldn't disclose which one. But he said all the numbers were comparable, and all of those schools were going to make him right around the highest paid coach in the country. For Lane, it was about resources to win a championship. Ole Miss is a place that historically, they haven't won a conference title in 60 years. And that's just not a school and a program that has tremendous resources. So he's done an incredible job there over the 6 years that he's been in Oxford, achieving heights and levels that program hasn't achieved in 6 decades. But I think he always just realized that he had a lower ceiling in Oxford, and places like Baton Rouge or Gainesville would give him a better opportunity to win. I think the biggest selling point was a couple of things. People within the industry that he leans on, trusts, people like Jimmy Sexton, Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Pete Carroll, all told him LSU is the better job and it's the best job in the country. And Nick Saban, of course, won a national championship here. And the other part, LSU had a very clearly defined NIL strategy, because remember, NIL is no longer just pay for play. You can't just have your collective write checks to players anymore. Every NIL deal over $600 has to go through the NIL Go clearinghouse overseen by Deloitte. So it has to be approved as market value. So you have to have a real strategy about how you're going to get those funds through the clearinghouse to your student athletes. And Lane Kiffin said on Monday that LSU far and away had the best plan of how to do that. So I think those are the things that swung the momentum to LSU.
We also find out that they're going to retain the services of Blake Baker. I think that's the right decision. I mean, they have the number 16 scoring defense here this season. Huge improvement from where they were last year. And then they're bringing over Charlie Weiss Jr. to call the plays. Your thoughts on, were you surprised at all that they were able to bring back Baker, or that he will be back? And then your thoughts of the rest of the hires so far for Lane, the rest of the staff.
Yeah, so it is worth noting that when Lane was asked about his staff on Monday, he did not commit to anyone. There are other reports about Blake Baker, but also I was able to learn today that Blake Baker interviewed on Monday today for the vacant Tulane job. Remember, he played linebacker at Tulane, and a year ago, when John Sumrall was in the mix at North Carolina, the job that ultimately went to Bill Belichick, had Sumrall gotten that job, Baker was going to be at or near the top of Tulane's list. So there's a chance that Blake Baker ends up as the head coach at Tulane and not back at LSU. It would be a major coup if they're able to retain him. Blake Baker was outstanding, and LSU's defense was far from the problem this year. They just had one of the worst offenses in the history of the program. So people would love to see Blake Baker back. It would be complicated further by the fact that Ole Miss promoted Pete Golding. So what direction would Lane Kiffin go if he needs to hire a defensive coordinator? It is worth noting that he had DJ Durkin with him at Ole Miss early in his tenure there. So Durkin, as I understand, was very upset that he was passed over for the Auburn job. So maybe an opportunity to bring DJ Durkin to Baton Rouge if Blake Baker gets that Tulane job. But the Charlie Weiss Jr. thing is interesting because there was a lot of conversation as to whether or not Charlie Weiss Jr. was actually going to get on the plane on Sunday to Baton Rouge, which he did. And then once he got on the plane, was he actually planning on signing a contract, or was this a fact-finding mission? Now, I'm of the belief that you get on the plane, like, you're gone. And there was even a report today that Charlie Weiss Jr. signed his contract with LSU. I can't confirm that, but one credible outlet at Ole Miss did report that. But look, it's Lane Kiffin's offense, and regardless of who the coordinator is, and I don't mean to in any way disparage Charlie Weiss Jr. or dismiss his contributions, but everywhere Kiffin has been, offense follows, and that was the key for LSU. They had to fix this offense, and they got arguably the best offensive mind in the country.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, man, because I had high hopes for the offense this year with Nussmeier back, thinking, if you could just protect him, worried obviously about the offensive line, having to replace a guy like Will Campbell. Do you think this is an easy fix with what he's got coming in, with what they're going to be able to bring back, or do you think this might take a year or two?
Well, it's a great question, and it's the question. And my answer would be, it better not take a year or two. You're paying Lane Kiffin $91 million. You've committed a gigantic NIL pool to him. And in the portal NIL era, guys, this is a reality where Curt Cignetti took over at literally the worst program in college football historically, Indiana. And in his first 2 years, has Indiana in the playoff in back-to-back years. Like, there is going to be no patience for Lane Kiffin. He has got to come in and make LSU a contender immediately because the resources are here. The portal allows it. It's no longer you have to build for 3 years through the high school ranks and establish culture. Like, it's more like the NFL. You hit on the right quarterback in the draft. Like, look at the Commanders a year ago. They draft Jaden Daniels. Boom, from irrelevance into the NFC Championship game. So Lane Kiffin's going to have to figure out quarterback. He's going to have to. There's going to be a lot of turnover on this roster, but nobody's proven better in this era at doing that year to year than Lane Kiffin. That's going to be the expectation.
We're talking to Matt Moscona right now, breaking down everything. Lane Kiffin, as he makes a major move going from Ole Miss to LSU. Matt, of course, host of After Further Review on ESPN Baton Rouge. Make sure you follow him on X at Matt Moscona. Again, on X at Matt Moscona. Matt, I'm going to dig in a little bit on something you already touched on. Obviously, Baton Rouge right now, a lot of the LSU fans are maybe feeling they're way back after getting their head coach. But everywhere Kiffin is gone, he hasn't exactly earned significant hardware. I mean, his greatest accomplishment as a head coach, winning Conference USA titles not once, but twice with Florida Atlantic. How long do you feel the leash really is? And, to keep people happy at that institution in that football crazed state, how many wins has he got to put under the belt in year one?
I don't know that I put a number on it, like how many wins would it take. I think it's going to be more competing for relevance. Like, it's not me saying it. I mean, the athletic director, Verge Osbury, when this search began, said point blank, LSU has to be in the college football playoff every year. That was his quote. And when you're talking about being one of the top 12 teams in America, it feels like that should be doable, especially if it means being one of the top 3 or 4 in the Southeastern Conference. So that's going to be the expectation. I mean, I could see a reality where Lane Kiffin year one goes 9-3 and you're just on the outside of the playoff, but there's a lot of excitement. The offense is back and you could see a path to building toward 2027 and being a playoff team and a national championship contender. But look, I mean, consider this as well. Like, his quarterback at Ole Miss, Trinidad Chambliss, is trying to gain an extra year of eligibility. Like, let's say hypothetically Chambliss goes into the transfer portal, lands at LSU, and maybe someone like Kewan Lacey. I mean, all of a sudden, now you're talking about having a proven, experienced quarterback, a playoff quarterback in the Southeastern Conference. The expectation is to be in the playoff. So, I mean, this isn't a place where people are going to be super pumped about an 8-4 or 7-5 season next year and going, well, it's just year one. I mean, remember, Brian Kelly in his first year in Baton Rouge won 10 games, won the SEC West, and went to Atlanta for the SEC championship game. It can be done quickly, and that's going to be the expectation.
Yeah, no doubt. Matt, we're going to get you out of here on this. You touched on this a little bit already. Obviously, offense is an area of need to rebuild this roster. I'm just curious, how many people do you think he's going to be able to get to defect from Ole Miss and join LSU in the transfer portal? And what areas of need does LSU have to have this offseason to be ultra competitive, to be in the college football playoff and be a contender?
Yeah, well, they got to fortify their offensive line. That was the linchpin of everything that went wrong with this offense. Scheme wasn't great. Quarterback play wasn't great. There was a lot that wasn't great, but it all started up front for this team. They've got to either improve the talent that they have, develop the talent they have, and or go into the transfer portal and get quality starters that can come in and be plug-and-play guys. That's going to be paramount. As far as the Ole Miss players that may defect, I don't cover Ole Miss on a day-to-day basis, so I can't tell you definitively how that may go. But what I can tell you are there are three names, and it's Trinidad Chambliss, it's Kejuan Lacey, and it's the freshman receiver Watkins, are the three that, from all indications, both around LSU and through the Ole Miss beat, that are loyal to Lane Kiffin. Watkins even said point blank that Lane Kiffin would be the only coach he plays for during his college career. So I think that's a pretty good starting point when you talk about the portal window opening in January. Is three guys that you could expect probably jump in and most likely would be favored to land in Baton Rouge.
Excellent stuff. Tremendous insights. A man very plugged into the situation with Lane Kiffin. Matt Moscona, host of After for the Review on ESPN Baton Rouge. And make sure you follow him on X, where he's always giving it to you there at Matt Moscona. Again, on X at Matt Moscona. Matt, appreciate the time, the insights, and enjoy the drama. Enjoy the ride at LSU.
I need a nap.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I bet you do. Probably cranking out a lot of content and reaction the last 24 hours. Utterly ridiculous what has gone down. Tremendous insights there from Matt about the number of players that could be coming over from Ole Miss. Mentioning Chambliss, Watkins, a star wide receiver, maybe some other key names as well. And they could really build instantaneously. I'm going to ask the same question that I asked Matt. Now, he didn't apply an actual number, and maybe you won't either, but how many wins do you feel that Kiffin has got to get after year one to avoid any kind of hot seat talk? It seems outlandish, but people need an instantaneous winner in that part of the country.
10 wins. I think they need to make the college football playoff year one.
Yeah.
I mean, man, you're paying him, again, you're paying his postseason tab, right? So, like, if Ole Miss were to win the national title, you're giving him an extra $1 million. And it's not like this is a team that had low expectations coming into the season. 2 years ago, you had Jaden Daniels, the Heisman winner, right? Like, this year, your win total was 8.5 coming into the year. If Brian Kelly, that's why I like them coming into the year, man. I knew the defense was going to be improved, and they were. They're a top 16 defense in the country. And I think they're better than that number even. But the problem was the offense and the offensive line. You had to replace 4 starters, including Will Campbell, a top 5 pick in the NFL draft, and Garrett Nussmeier. We didn't even get to properly, what sucks for that kid is we didn't even get to properly evaluate him. I mean, what we did wasn't all that great, but he was under pressure on every single drop back. So I think Lane, honestly, has to win double-digit games year one. And I do think, though, that was a great question, and I do think that he's going to be able to bring over, I would say, probably like 8 to 10 minimum players from Ole Miss, including Lacey. Yeah. If he brings Lacey in, man, and if he could get Trinidad Chambliss over, that offense, they could be a top 15 offense by next year. It's LSU, so I think he's got to win right away.
Yeah, they're going to turn things around relatively quickly. It's all about sustainability and how many wins LSU can get there in year one. It's going to be fascinating to watch unfold.